Ausstieg.
Righto. So guess where I am? I am at Nyangama, KZ Gedenkstätte. So what is this? This is one of the Nazi concentration camps, actually one of the biggest. This is where they slaughtered the Jews back in the day, during the World Wars. And yeah, so let's see what we get here. Don't exactly know what all this is, but I do know. I'll get back to you. So here at Nyangama, and this nice lady gave me a little bit of she gave me a flyer. I was there in that sort of information building. And like I said, this is Nyangama. This is where the Jews were basically slaughtered. There were over 100,000 Jews here, and about 50,000 of them were killed. We can see there are like sort of, I don't know, look like stones. It almost look like a grave site, so to say. This place closes at technically, the exhibitions close at 4, but this place will be open throughout the day. So before it closes, I just want to go into that building over there. You're free to walk around in this place at no cost. But if you want the guided tour, obviously you have to pay. And then this place stretches from right around there. All of those are part of it. That's a guided tour. You look, if it goes on to the other side, there's a building there that you can walk into. Yeah, so it should be interesting. It's quite big, I must say. I'm just going to go and have a look at one of these signs and see what it says. But Lyndon Mange has been to Nyangama in Germany at the Nazi concentration camp, one of the biggest. Like I said, there was more than 100,000 people here. About 50,000 of them were killed. Were basically slaves here as well, making different things. And yeah, obviously they're very sensitive about cameras. Working on construction of this building in 1949-41, the first in the camp to have cellars, was one of the most dreaded labor duties in the camp. It serves primarily as storage for food and provisions. Potatoes and vegetables were kept in the cellar. Located at the building's southern end was a canteen, a shop where prisoners who had been awarded privileges, means of status, initially money, late incentive, bonus vouchers, could purchase cigarettes, certain other wares. Very, very, very interesting. So here you'll see one of the guided tours coming along now.
Waren auch Unterkünfte für die Häftlinge.
Switch off. So I'm inside one of the buildings right now. Not sure what to expect. This look like heating pipes. There's actually an elevator here. There's actually a sign that tells you where to go. This looks like an hospital area, interestingly. Just chairs. latrine for Block 24, later Block 28. It was also used a latrine for British authorities' intermittent camp between 1945 and 1948, and later for the male offenders. A penalty facility, whatever, the room then stood empty for several years. It was used as an office and as a storage room for the penal facility closed door. So basically, in each room, I suppose there's chairs for the visitors to sit while they explain what goes on. But each room has a sign like this that tells you what went on in this room. So this particular room, this was the washroom for the neighboring block. The washrooms in the wooden huts differed from this one in that they were equipped with long sinks for the hands and feet instead of the round sinks here. In the mornings and evenings when prisoners were allowed to enter the washrooms, they had to fight for a place at one of the few taps that had been installed. Weaker prisoners often did not manage to get to one of the taps. Often the bodies of prisoners who had died were put into the washrooms or latrines until the commander in charge of clearing the bodies came to take them away. So yes. I'll read this a bit later. But I think these are like sort of artifacts. It tells you what sort of went on here. No English, I see. Ek sal nou begin Afrikaans te praat, so die mense my nie kan verstaan nie. Maar die mense kan 'n bietjie Afrikaans verstaan. Ek sien daar's boeke hier. Reading English, joined the German Communist Party in 1929, acted in Berlin from 1930, moved to Prague in 1933, arrested in 1939. So, transferred to Joshua concentration. So it tells you what sort of each prisoner went through. It's basically a book about that particular prisoner. Looks like it. There's nog 'n boek, dis Kurt Schumacher. Byvoorbeeld, Kurt Schumacher volunteered for military service in 1940. Wooden action resulted in a loss of his right arm. Joined the Social Democratic Party, member of the Utemark Regional Parliament, member of that, intern in various prisons and concentration camps. So this was an employee. Emil František Burian, composer, dramatic advisor, and theatre manager, founded the D34 Theatre in Prague in 1903, arrested on March 12, 1941, sent to Dutch concentration camp on June 27, my birthday, 1941, transferred to Neuengamme on August 7, surviving the shipping disaster in Lübeck. By on May 3, 1943, returned to Prague, resumed work as manager of his theatre. Okay. And so it goes on. There's some guns here. Basically artifacts. Interesting one. Armaments production. So in 1942, the concentration camps were given a more important role within the German war economy, which led to privately owned armaments companies setting up production facilities in the immediate vicinity of Neuengamme concentration camp. The companies had to pay the SS for prisoners' labor and therefore demanded that they be sent to school workers. This led to a slight improvement in conditions for some prisoners who received bread bonuses. Also, the arbitrary beating of prisoners could not be reconciled with the production process. The management of the Masap and Chastrom companies reached an agreement with the SS which stated that prisoners working at their plants were not to be guarded by SS men, but by civilian employees of the arms manufacturers. Severe maltreatment and overwork were therefore the exception at these workplaces. Prisoners working in armaments production had to fulfill production quotas. If they failed, they faced punishment and transferred to one of the dreaded excavation or construction commandos. Excavation commandos, so meaning that if you didn't reach your quota, you'd have to go to a different section that was more difficult on them, I suppose. Being one of them. And these are obviously some relics from the past. Here's a saw. Only have a few minutes left before I have to leave here. This is sort of designs of what it look like. Just to read this one, it's English. During the first few years, the prisoners had to sleep on the crowded floors of the two-block wooden huts. 941 huts were fitted with three-tier bunk beds, lockers, tables, and benches. Over 300 prisoners and sometimes even more than 600 prisoners were usually crammed into each 50-meter by 8-meter block. The two stone buildings erected in 1943 contained 4 blocks each, in which 507 prisoners were housed. The convalescence blocks held even more prisoners. From 1944, 2 and sometimes even 3 prisoners had to share one bunk. This overcrowding made restful sleep impossible. The quarters reeked of sweat and feces because of insufficient sanitary facilities and because many prisoners suffered from diarrhea. Prisoners had no privacy whatsoever, and the best bunks usually went to the strongest prisoners. So you can see a sort of a theme where even the prisoners fought among themselves. This is probably one of the sort of clothing that they wore. And then no English, but that's buttons there, more clothing, typical clothing that they wore. There's a picture of basically the overcrowding where sometimes prisoners weren't able to get to the basin because they were too weak. So the stronger prisoners would fight off the weaker prisoners, and then therefore they would get what was required. This is when they were basically time to eat. So let's read the food and hunger one. So professional prisoners received so little food that many of them perished within a few months after their arrival at the camp. Hunger determined the prisoners' every thought and action during the day. In the morning, prisoners were given half a liter of watery substitute coffee. At noon, they received around 1 liter of thin soup, and at night, they were given a piece of coarse bread with some inferior cheese or sausage. Towards the end of the war, bread rations, called koele, became smaller and smaller. In 1943-1944, the members of certain commandos received 2 slices of bread as a bonus. Prisoners suffered from protein and vitamin deficiency and a lack of fat. When you tried to acquire food legally, prisoners could only buy food at the canteen if they received money from home or if they were given bonuses at work. A system which was introduced in 1943. Many prisoners only survived because they received food parcels from their relatives or from the Red Cross. So what's interesting is that even though they were prisoners here and basically kept apart, they were still in touch with their families, and they could basically still eat if their families sent them food. So it's almost like a normal prison. So this is interesting as well, or interesting. This is probably a typical bed that they slept on. As you can see, it's a bed with hay on it. Doesn't look like the most comfortable thing in the world. I can't imagine sleeping on something like that. A lot of German, which we can translate later if you want to. Let's go a step further. And then, so this is like the place where there's a lot of artifact stuff. So this personally fixed. So this is personally fixed. So the objects belong to 6 women, all of whom came from Eastern Europe. They were transferred from the Ravensbrück concentration camp for women to the following satellite camps: Hamburg, wherever. They worked at the Steelworks. The transfer started in summer 1944. Lida Sorina, a 20-year-old student from the Soviet Union, came from the Ravensbrück concentration camp to Hamburg Wandsbek, a satellite camp of the Neuengamme concentration camp, in summer 1994, where she had to perform forced labor at a subsidiary of the Lübeck-based company, Drägerwerk AG. Irene Tchaikovsky, a Polish student, was transferred from the Ravensbrück concentration camp to that one, a satellite camp of the Neuengamme concentration camp located in Leinde in August 1944 at the age of 21. There she was forced to work at the Reichswerk Hermann Göring. I'm not going to go through the others. But interestingly, these were the prisoners' personal sort of possessions, which were either taken from them or, I suppose, when they were killed, was removed. You always see rings and clocks and photos of people. There's a camera. I suppose the prisoner had a camera, interestingly. There's another book. So there's a book, it seems like there's a book for every prisoner. So this is Valerian Vroubel, however you pronounce that. Did forced labor in Bremen, Lesum from April 1929, 1941, arrested on April 29, 1941 for suspected arson, transferred to Neuengamme concentration camp on June 28, 1941, transferred to Bremen remand prison on April 8, 1942, stood trial before Bremen Special Court in July 8, 1942, and was sentenced to death. So this person was basically, I suppose, German, but they convicted of arson him. Susanna Ruzikova, so it looks like this is a Russian by the name. Starita Harpy-Short, sent to that in January 1994, transferred to Auschwitz concentration camp in 1943, transferred to Neuengamme concentration. I think that means they're going to close soon.
Please finish your tour and proceed to the exit. Thank you.
Okay. Interesting to see what the time is. So 3 minutes to go here, and books and books of people who were prisoners back in the day. Here they speak about German prisoners. German prisoners, including Austrians, were considered citizens of the Reich, formed the largest group. Initially, the main purpose of the concentration was to imprison the Nazis' political adversaries. So it was political adversaries. That's what happened. So I don't think I'll get to go into any of the other buildings, but at least I have an idea of what one looks like, because I got here too late. Here's an example of the layout. You can see how big and vast it is. We didn't even get to this side. I think we are somewhere here. Yeah. Here they have descriptions of stuff. Okay. This is an example of, I don't know, barbed wire of some sort. Lyk vir my soos 'n skool vir kinders. Washington Drop 24 was also used as a Washington for the British Authorities International Camp between that time and later for the male offenders. The penalty facility in 1940, the room then stood empty for several years. We were here earlier on. If you went, we were upstairs. That looks like the cafeteria on that side. And that is the layout of the building. So it goes down to somewhere that looks like a dungeon of some sort. So like I said, we were on the left side, most one side, and it still goes right to the other side. These look like bureau sites to me, but I wouldn't know. I can't confirm or deny. And I suppose that building on that side is a building like this one. Let's just go this side quickly just to go and see what's inside. If you can see inside. We can see something hidden there. Can't really see inside this one. Probably closed. Yep. But can't really see much inside there. So bus comes past here every hour, so that will be an hour from now. No, not an hour. I got you about 50 minutes ago, so in 45 minutes. So I think I'll spend about the 45 minutes here and then yeah, we'll see. There is a map here as well. I can tell you a bit more. So I think we started, I can't even say. Yeah, I think we here, somewhere here. So that's what I'm looking at here is that the number 12. Number 12 was it just tells you what the exhibition areas are. Doesn't really give you any history, but we can go through that a bit later. So these seem to be garages. Built in 1941 and repeatedly altered before 1945, the garages offered cover and parking for SS vehicles. The adjacent buildings housed the armory and the horse stables. A petrol station stood on the perimeter of the garage court, which was used by the SS guards as a parade ground. Prior to late 2001, these buildings served as flats for government employees. Besides housing, the department responsible for security, including the dog unit, in all Hamburg's penal institutions. Following comprehensive restoration and refurbishment of the interior, this complex has been in operation as a venue for exhibitions and research studies since 2002. So, basically this place, this area with the garages to keep the vehicles. And I suppose it was a petrol station, could be that. I don't know where, but that's what it said. And suppose another exhibition room which you can go into. I should have come earlier, but from 1940 onwards, this section of the camp was used to build barrack-like offices and accommodation for the SS. Up to 500 members of the SS were quartered in the barracks for regular soldiers and lower-ranking officers. Between 1945 and 1948, these buildings were occupied by the guard force of the British internment camp. In 1948, when the men's prison was installed at the former concentration camp, these barracks were used to accommodate prison staff. In the mid-1950s, once the new staff housing estate had been built on the more northerly premises of the old brickworks where the camp's first prisoners had been quartered, the barracks of the former SS camp were finally demolished. Thereafter, until 2001, the site was leased out as pasture. So I'm going to go around here and see what's there because it should be interesting as well. So there's more stuff there, a lot more stuff. Would be interesting if I could go there and go have another look, but yo, that's far. Okay, I'm not going to go there because it's quite far and I don't know what it is. Maybe if I go and do some Googling, I can find out. Just need to check what time the bus comes. So I have another 26 minutes here before the bus comes. I don't want to have to be late because otherwise I have to wait another hour. But in 26 minutes I can go and check out one or two more things. So I want to go over to those buildings on that side and see what goes on there. So this is a sign showing what goes on at this exhibition. So if you go straight to the exhibition on slave labor in the armaments industry, special exhibitions. On the left is main exhibition, trace of history, research exhibition, the Camp SS. Yeah. More stuff there. Looks like those are factories where the workers had to make things. So this is this building, I think. Since this building was constructed in 1933, 43, 44 as the first of the altogether 8 planned 2-story prisoner accommodation tracts ready for use by mid-1994, it was occupied intermittently by over 3,000 concentration camp prisoners. In the cell, the exhausted prisoners were forced to perform weaker work. Even before the building was finished, this cellar, as also one of the beneath blocks 1 to 4 in the Western Clinker building, doubled up as an air raid shelter. When the air raid alarm sounded, SS guards and campos brutally herded the prisoners into the cellar, often causing panic and accidents. Following 1945, the building became part of the British internment camp. From 1948 onwards, it was used by the prison. Until 1950, it served as cells for prison inmates, after which, and until 2003, it was converted into the prison sick bay, a storage depot, a canteen, and kitchens. In 1953, the building was extended on its east-facing side to provide kitchens, demolished in 2004. Since 2005, the Ngama concentration camp memorial has been using the building to house its permanent exhibition. Okay, so only up to 2005 was this place used as an actual exhibition. So before then, it was still a prison. Very interesting. Let me go see that side. Still have some time, yeah? Yeah, this is just pictures of probably the prison. Nothing much so, yeah. So this structure, that were the windows basically and the wall, I take it, of the structure. I would imagine that were the factories. Oh, I don't know. So looks like a little prison. So a little prison where you can see these little blocks. So each block must have been a cell. So they could come out, and that would be the sort of exit, I suppose. Like, I'm just surmising here because I don't know. I didn't go on an actual exhibition, and came late. But yeah, nice thing is the people seem. I thought they're gonna be like full of shit when it comes to the cameras, but they're not. So I mean, you can walk around here, I can talk, and the people here seem very friendly, to be honest. I read online that, they're very sensitive about cameras because they're sensitive about the people that were prisoners here. But yeah, it doesn't look like that's the case, one of the exhibitors there walked right past him in the camera, nothing was said. Here it says the prisoner's kitchen. So, okay. So I suppose what these are building used to be. It's not a where people are buried. So this particular one says food for the prisoners was prepared in this building constructed in 1940 and was made mostly from substandard ingredients. As the war proceeded, rations were successfully reduced. Malnutrition was one of the main reasons why so many people in Yungama died of hunger and disease. After the war, the kitchen remained in use until the new kitchen extension of the Eastern Clicker building was completed in 1953. It was later demolished. So all of these structures were buildings, interestingly, and each one has a little, how do you say, what's the word? Like a little definition, so to say, of what happened in that building. Okay, as I start to read more stuff, things become more clear, which is very interesting. So it appears that most of the buildings in this area were demolished and some of them remained. Let's go and read this one. So this building, infirmaries 2 to 5, as the numbers of dead increased over 10% per month. Labor shortages in the various key industries became more acute. One measure aimed at reducing mortality was the construction of 3 new infirmaries in 1943. This raised the number of beds from 60 to about 750, yet the means for treating the sick remained as inadequate as before. After the war, the 4 infirmary barracks continued to be used as a hospital. They were demolished in 1950. So this was a building that was demolished in 1950. But the very common thread here is that prisoners weren't given enough food, nutrition, the stuff that we get fat from. And medicines, I suppose, if they were wounded, not enough wound dressing. It's basically, they were prisoners, so they were maltreated, I suppose. They were expected to work long hours, treated badly. It appears this was not just a prison for Jews, it was a prison for everybody, even Germans. And like Germans that committed arson in the one case or other serious crimes were brought here as prisoners. Okay, so this area here seems to have been a parade ground. So, read on this one, it says remnants of the parade ground. A fragment of the historic parade ground around 800 square meters in size was discovered when the prison building was demolished in 2003. This fragment was integrated into the reconstruction of the parade ground. The broken lines are parts of the concrete foundations of the cell block, which was erected on this section of the parade ground in 1950. together with the remains of the prison building to the north, that documented the post-war use of grounds. So, yeah, there's a parade ground, I suppose. Don't know who paraded, but definitely somebody. More prison barracks. In 1948, barracks so-called blocks were built in 9 rows. At first, prisoners slept on the floor after 1941 in 3-tier bunk beds, which you saw earlier on, designed to hold about 200 people. The blocks were mercilessly overfilled, sometimes with over 400 prisoners per block. The sanitary facilities were utterly inadequate and the level of hygiene below all human dignity. After being handed over to Hamburg's Justice Department, the barracks were demolished in 1949 and replaced with a new tract of prison cells. Okay. So the SS escorted those prisoners they were employed as personal servants in a special barrack which was less crammed with occupants. Here attention was paid to cleanliness, hygiene, and reasonable standard of clothing and nutrition. These prisoners were initially kept in Block 1, but when this barrack was demolished in 1903 to make way for a new 2-story building, the High Society Camp Jargon was shifted to Block 5 and later on again to other barracks. The officers of the camp elder and the camp clerk were also moved to Block 1 to Block 5. So, some prisoners got better treatment because, don't know why, I'm not going to go in there because I'm running late for the bus and I don't want to miss the bus. Yeah, interestingly, I've been paying for my bus rides and my train rides and all that, but not one person came to come and check if I have a bus ticket. So I'm going to take this bus without paying now, and then I'll pay when I get to the train station, because I have to take a bus to the train station and from the train station to the hotel. Yeah, the nice lady of early on. This just looks like a place where if you're going on a tour, you'd sit around those benches and then they'll explain things to you. So yeah, that was a quick little tour of Neuengamme, KZ Gedenkschatte. I don't know what the KZ Gedenkschatte is supposed to mean, but it was just called Neuengamme. And then as we ride past now, I'll just show a little bit more of. So this whole place goes from this side, which seems far to that side. And yes, now we just wait for the bus. About 10 minutes to go. And I'll go and go to the closing ceremony of the convention that I actually came to, the purpose of coming to Germany. But this place is very different to the Hamburg in the main part of the town, where you just see buildings upon buildings upon buildings. And this place over here just seemed to be a lot of farmland. This is all farmland over here. You can see the wind thingies there. It was standing still earlier on. But so I see some of them are moving now, so the wind is coming up. And like I say, I can walk around here all day, but it's also nice to go inside and go and see the artifacts, and go and read the books of the people and what type of people came here. There's another, well, we saw it inside, but as you can see, there's different things going on here as well. Not much English, but yes. So this is what your typical bus sign would look like. You see your H bus, either 127 or 227, go to BF Bergedorf station.
You can take this one with the both buses. And now they are going to Bergedorf, and in Bergedorf with the both buses going to here.
Yeah, and then that's where I'll take a train.
Bergedorf, there is a train.
Yeah.
Very good.
So on the other side over there, where you saw that little ramps,
Zur Rampe, da hinten Klinkerwerk, ne? Genau.
klinkerwerk. So the lady describes that
sure.
as klinkerwerk.
Klinker.
So I need a clinker. I don't know what that is in English.
Stones.
Stones.
Stones. The red stones here.
Okay.
This one.
Okay.
Bricks.
Bricks,
Bricks,
yeah.
genau.
Okay, so they made
Bricks.
bricks there.
No.
Okay. So they made a bit of everything here. They made like door handles and weapons as well. Not weapons, yeah. Not weapons because otherwise they'll shoot the guards.
Ach so, ja, Walterwerke, genau, Pistols, Walterwerke hinten. There.
Yeah.
There is a short exhibition. Have a look in the computer, internet, KZ-Gedenkstätte Neuengamme. No?
Yeah.
And have a look, and then you have a look where the exhibitions here on this place. Here, now it is.
So that's our bus.
Yes, this one. It's going to
Yeah.
Bergedorf.
Okay.
Yeah?
Thanks. So leaving by
Nächste
bus.
Haltestelle KZ Gedenkstätte Klinkerwerk.
We were there on that side. They kept vehicles. And then further on, the lady explained this is klinkerwerk, which means building bricks. So now I know what building bricks mean. But I did watch something where they also made things like door handles and a whole lot of different stuff.
Nächste Haltestelle KZ Gedenkstätte Mahnmal.
And then, yeah, some more stuff here. There's some graveside stuff. I can see flowers.
Nächste
So it
Haltestelle
appears that people do come here from time to time to come and put some flowers down. Remembrance of the loved ones. And then from here on, that's the end of it. People stay here now. So it looked like people stay here is like, looks like it's farm workers or farm owners or something to that effect.